Recently, I took a trip and I used Spirit Airlines. I've had people say to me before that they end up being way more expensive than they advertise. They're not a good airline, etc., etc. And while I do agree that it's not the best airline out there, they're definitely a great way to maximize and utilize an airline if you're trying to fly on the cheap. So today we're going to be talking about tips that you can use to make your experience as enjoyable and useful as possible flying Spirit. Tip number one, my biggest tip to you all is to use Spirit only if you're planning to do a weekend trip and can afford a carry-on bag only. This is the biggest tip for keeping it on the cheap. What I did on my particular trip, it was myself and my daughter, and I made sure to have 2 carry-on items where everything fit for our trip. To give you a visual, here are the luggage items that I used. This one was for myself, and then this one was for my daughter. So yeah, as you can see there, they did allow for this book bag here. This is the depth of it. And just so you know, the carry-on is technically the personal item. I've been saying carry-on, it's one personal item. So it's considered your purse. So in other words, you can't have a purse and this bag. It'd just be this bag as your personal item. To give you a comparison in size, it's actually smaller than a pillow. So there's my pillow right next to it, and that's the size of the personal item. But the good thing is it does go in deep, so any regular size book bag would work as a personal item. And then as you can see, my daughter's little personal item, they do allow 1 personal item per person, so that helped me out a lot. My daughter, she's still a really young age where her stuff doesn't take up much room, and her clothes are small, so they don't really take up that much space. This is like the width of it inside, and I'll show you inside here. It does look small, but once you fill it in, you could really fill this bad boy in with a lot of clothing. Those are the 2 personal items, and that was enough for me. Honestly, that was enough for my trip. So here are my biggest tips. I know I mentioned I would give some tips in regards to packing light. And granted, keep in mind, you are going to be roughing it out a little bit. This isn't going to be like some luxurious trip where you're, trying to bring your best gown or your best suit. You're really basically bringing like the most basic of necessities. You really want to plan out your outfits ahead of time. This is not one of those trips where you can bring multiple outfits. Besides the obvious of packing light, we want to limit ourselves to 1 good pair of sneakers. Ideally, you're looking at 1 pair of shoes if you're gonna pack this light. So make sure that they are comfortable, make sure that they are universal, and make sure that they will go with just about any outfit that you're planning to bring. Second tip to packing light is making sure that you leave all of your toiletries at home. The basic necessities would be maybe one of those very small travel size toothpaste and your toothbrush. Anything else I would suggest that you get when you arrive to your destination. So try to plan a trip to where you're going to stop at either like a Walmart or a Target, where you can then get travel size toiletries. Make sure that you get the travel size. This way it will prevent you from having heavy bulky items. And the idea here is that you will use all of your toiletries before the end of your trip. Shampoo, conditioner, soap, etc. You want to try to use up so that you can leave it behind and not have to pack it for the return flight home. Last but not least, maximizing your luggage space. I learned this on a TikTok video, but I like to use roll-up method for packing in your clothing. So you want to fold it at a point where it's nice and flat so that you can easily roll it up. So now that it's nice and flat, I'm going to come in at the very bottom, and I'm going to pull the shirt and just start rolling up the shirt here. You want to try to get it as nice and tight as possible. That's going to allow you to maximize your space. Look up videos on how to maximize on your suitcase space or your luggage space. But this is the method I like to use. I think it's one of the more effective methods for really maximizing your luggage space. I do the roll-up method with just about any article of clothing. For example, I'll take another piece of clothing here. I have a pair of shorts. So we're gonna make sure that it's nice and flat and go down to the very bottom and then just start rolling it. And again, we want to make sure that it's nice and flat. Start at the very bottom and have a nice tight roll to it. Okay. The tighter the roll, the better. If you think about it, these are just 2 articles of clothing right here. And really that's not much. That's not taking up much space at all. The way Spirit Airlines works is that they will charge you per luggage. Actually, I've come to find that a lot of airlines are starting to do this now. They will allow you as a free complimentary 1 carry-on luggage, or 1 carry-on bag, I should say. And then anything additional to that, you have to pay for. So any further carry-ons or bags that you would be checking in, you would be responsible for an additional cost. And this is how Spirit Airlines operates. So packing light is definitely a must if you're planning to fly Spirit. Tip number 2 is being prepared when you get to the gate to print out your own boarding pass. What I like to do is whenever I get my confirmation email from the airline, I make sure to star that email and save it so that when the time comes for my trip, I have that email readily available. In that email is my confirmation number. Another thing that I've noticed that many airlines are doing is doing self check-in versus checking in with someone at the counter. And if you plan to or want to check in with someone at the counter, a lot of times airlines are now charging you additional for this service. So I would say get used to checking yourself in. Not only does this make it cheaper for you, but it's also very convenient once you learn the process and you get used to it. Okay, first things first, we're at the gate. We have our confirmation number ready to go. Let's click start. Let's click let's go. Now it's going to ask you how you want to look up your stuff. You click confirmation number, plug in your confirmation number from your email. Continue, let's go. Now it'll pull up the names of the travelers, things that you need to be aware of, and things that you need to consent to. Like the obvious, not bringing any hazardous materials onto the airplane, and making sure you follow carry-on restrictions and policies, and so forth and so forth. Once you've confirmed all of that, this is where Spirit tries to get their money from you. So it will begin to prompt you to see if you want different accommodations and amenities with your itinerary. Select no to everything, specifically the seating arrangement. People have the misconception that if they don't choose their seating arrangement and pay the extra money, if they're traveling with someone else, that they won't sit together. That is not necessarily true. While that could be the case, a lot of times the airlines, think about it, you guys, the airlines want to see you happy. So if they can make you happy, then they will be happy. A happy customer equals a happy experience. And if you have a happy experience, chances are you'll likely use their services again. So for that reason, they try to accommodate as much as possible. In my case, I did take the chance. I've done it before. I didn't select the seating options and I still was able to sit with my daughter. I will say that this happened to me where the flight was completely packed and full. They had my daughter and I separated, and a passenger was kind enough to trade seats with me so that she could sit next to me. So usually it works out nicely. I wouldn't bother with paying the additional fee. I just think this is a great way to save a little money. 90% of the time, you'll probably end up sitting next to your travel buddy anyway. Back to our checking in, make sure that you are paying close attention to all the prompts and following instructions correctly. Pay attention because if you have a layover, you are going to get more than 1 boarding pass. You will get all of your tickets in that same check-in. We had a layover for one of our flights, so we ended up getting 4 separate boarding passes to include the flight for our layover. Okay, once you get your tickets, easy enough. Have your little helper assist you there, and you're all set. It's time to go to your gate. My next biggest tip, make sure you give yourself enough time to get to your gate. You do not know what's going to find you when you get there. It may be very slow. It may be very packed. So to avoid all the stress and the rushing and the panicking to get to your gate, make sure that you give yourself enough time. This way, when you get there, you can chill and relax and get nice and settled before your flight. Other quick tips, make sure you pack enough snacks or a lunch for your flight time. They do charge you an arm and a leg for snacks on board, so you'll want to bring your own. Make sure you're also bringing enough entertainment. They do charge you for Wi-Fi as well. Other than that, just sit back, relax, and enjoy your very nicely priced and affordable Spirit Airlines flight. If you're planning to take a trip somewhere anytime soon, I wish you all the best in your travels. Like and subscribe to this channel for more fun videos like this. Thank you for watching and staying to the end. Have a great day. Love you all. Bye.